Final hour overdrive continues. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN 2. Bryan Hayes, Frankie Corrado, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. No Dear Hazy B today because O is off again. Kind of allow O, you got to throw him a bone and let him have at least one thing.
Yeah.
Right? He's got to have one. We try to prop him up and we say, you can have Dear Hazy B.
He might be grinding on the 401 right now, bumper to bumper. Like, I haven't heard the traffic reports, but I don't think it's nice.
No, it probably isn't. I mean, 6 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because O was doing panel work, obviously, earlier where the Leafs stormed back to beat, I keep wanting to say they're playing Sweden. But they're not. They played
the
Detroit.
Swedish team.
Yeah.
The Swedish Detroit team.
Yeah, they did not beat Frölunda today. They beat the Red Wings.
We were talking about it, though, yesterday, Hayes, you and I off air, and then we brought it on air. Is like, I don't know, a 2-goal deficit, but it's how many come from behind wins have we seen? Is this an outlier year, or are these about the same? It just happens to be, some more dramatic one. Not just talking about the Leafs, just talking about teams in general. There's like no lead is safe right now, Yeah,
it seems that way. And Toronto is probably a great case study for it, Noodles, because, that's got to be their 4th or 5th game where they've stormed back to kind of steal one.
Montreal, twice with Tampa.
Yep.
And in this one, that's 4 alone.
They were losing to Vancouver the other night. It wasn't as extreme, but they were down to 2-1 after the first, I think.
They held on when Calgary came back.
Yes.
Right.
So it's gone both ways. Yeah. But today, the Leafs were down 2-0 through 40 minutes, and it was a sleepy 40 minutes. But again, I don't know how you even really. It's not about criticizing or anything like that. But how do you evaluate such a unique game? Like, you're a professional athlete. They've been over there. They're ready to go. It's not like they're jet lagged anymore. They've been there for 4 days. I think it is 3 or 4 days. But it was a sleepy start, and then eventually they came alive. And who was the one that triggered that? It was William Nylander again. Like, Nylander with a great setup for the first goal. That was Bertuzzi. And then Willie scores the second goal on a power play with about 7 minutes to go to tie it up. And the place was rocking. There's a lot of Leaf fans there and a lot of Nylander fans there, clearly. And then with a couple minutes to go, Tyler Bertuzzi wins a battle behind the net. I guess 5 minutes to go or so, makes a great pass backdoor to Tavares. Tavares wins it. And they take the game 3-2.
You know what gets lost in all that? Quiet little game from Ilya Samsonov, right? Like, think about how many times we've talked about him this year. Like, it was, the feet were moving too much, whatever. Leaky goals.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's in 2 tonight.
No, you're right.
And that's a tough spot for him, just like it's a tough spot for everyone else.
Do you think he starts on Sunday? You go back to Samsonov or give Wall a start over there?
I think you give Wall a start. I think you do. I think you go back. You give both of them an opportunity to play. And, Samsonov didn't have to steal that game, but he made a couple good saves, and that's all that matters. But, I think you could give Wall a start there.
I would hope so, right? Like, he's a part of the team. It's a tandem. He's flying over there. It's not like he's an injury replacement or something like that. He's in Sweden. Give him a shot. And it's not like Samsonov is Swedish either.
Right.
Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Before we get to the game today, Johnny, what do you think Wall starts on Sunday? Have you heard anything on that? What do you see happening there?
I think the plan was to have Wool start on Sunday. They were going to split it, and it was going to be Samsonov tonight, Wool on Sunday. That was always the plan. Now, Samsonov wasn't super busy. He did play relatively well. Penalty shot, what are you going to do? I did not like the second goal. I think I said it pretty clearly when I was doing the broadcast. Yeah. But it was only 2, and he made the saves they had to make along the way. So maybe that changes it, but I doubt it. I think that Wall goes Sunday, and they just split them up.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Again, it's a team event. It's a bonding event. Samsonov got the job done. Wall's been good this year. Give him a start on Sunday. But this whole week, from our standpoint, obviously we're back home, but it feels like the William Nylander tour. Like, it's like all about Nylander, and I know Järnkrok is there, Lagesson's there, Liljegren and Klingberg are there, although they're injured, and other Swedish players on other teams, including Lucas Raymond for Detroit, who scored today. But it felt fitting that it was Willie who keeps the point streak alive, which is amazing. That's 16 games in a row with a point, but not cheap, right? Set up the first one, scores the second one. I guess gets a kind of cheap secondary assist on the third one, but he won the faceoff clean. Like, it was the Nylander show in the third period there, Johnny.
It absolutely was. And just for the record, there is no such thing as a cheap second assist.
Okay.
Like, those are just beautiful,
All right.
glorious. They are cash worthy. I'm glad the primary thing was not a factor when I was playing. But you're right. And, like, I guess we'll give Detroit credit because Detroit was pretty good defensively through the first 40 minutes. They didn't give Toronto a lot of life, not a lot of space. They always had bodies back. They're physical and big on defense around the board, so there just wasn't a lot of sustained anything. And, like, the third period came around, and Willie just turned it up. Like, he just turned up the pace. He had two kind of rushes early in this third period, and you could kind of see he just tasted a bit of open ice, the puck on a stick a couple times, a couple shots on net. And after that, it's almost, it's not funny at all if you're a Detroit Red Wing or an opposition player. But when he gets the puck up by the blue line, whether it's in the middle of the ice or on the wall, and he has a defender up there for him, there is no chance that they can cover him. There's just no chance. He just stops, turns, cuts back the other way, and he's got 10 feet of space. That's what he did on the Bertuzzi goal. And, you know, he's just so gifted at it that line did all the work. Matthews and Marner and Nyes were very quiet, didn't have much of anything going on in this game at 5-on-5. But the Bertuzzi, Tavares, and especially Nylander line was fantastic. And, you know, he had a lot of family friends there. His grandma's there to watch him for the first time. There was a little bit of pressure on him to play well and sort of continue the streak and do it in Sweden where everyone's watching. And he was awesome. Player of the game, got it from Borje Salming's son. Like, it was a very cool sort of capping off the storybook week so far, because this week has absolutely been about William Nylander. You can say there are other Swedes on the team for Toronto. It does not matter. Like, Sheldon Keefe started Lagesson and Jarnkrok, and that was a nice gesture. But it is all, this whole thing is about William Nylander, it feels like, and he did not disappoint. He was the best player out there, and they needed him to be.
Johnny, it's funny you mentioned that, like, there's certain situations on the ice where you just can't stop William Nylander. And after the Vancouver game, Rick Tocchet, he healthy scratched that Nils Höglander because he said there was 2 mistakes on the Nylander goal. I went back and watched it, and I'm like, there's nothing you can do there, man. Like, Willie is just, he's skating downhill at you. He's taking that puck, and there's not much you can do about it. But that line at 5-on-5 has been a revelation with Tyler Bertuzzi now. Like, how important is it that those guys have kind of found their groove here, and Bertuzzi has found a home with Tavares and Nylander?
I mean, it's huge. Clearly, everyone thought Bertuzzi, Matthews, Marner makes sense. He's kind of gritty. He's like a better Bunting, which worked really well. But it didn't quite work. I think some of that was because Tyler Bertuzzi was not healthy. He wasn't skating particularly well, and he's not a great skater to begin with. But he's, with Nylander doing so much luggage of the puck, he has it so much on his stick, it allows Tavares to be darty in and out of shooting spaces, and it allows Bertuzzi, who does all his best work within 15 feet of the net, whether it's off the boards or just in front banging away, he doesn't really have to support the puck that much when Nylander has it, because no one takes it off Nylander. He just says, go ahead, do your thing, get it down here where I can do something, you know, around the front of the net. And it's been working really well. That's how he scored his goal. That's how he picked up his assist. And it was one of his better games. And you're paying the guy, whatever it is, $5-point-something million to be a top 6, top winger. And you need production out of that guy. And it feels like where his game's at, the skill set of Nylander, Tavares, and Bertuzzi are complementing each other, and that's huge because they need production from him, and they're finally getting it.
Johnny, what do you make of the D as a whole? And then obviously with the Klingberg situation, we were talking about it in the last hour, just, you know, him having, we'll call it nagging injuries and all of a sudden kind of in and out of the lineup. You know, is that them, you know, concerned about the injury, or maybe, you know, sheltering him a little bit, making sure that he's fine, maybe not play every night?
So, I was on the plane with him, so I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to see, but, like, he's not faking an injury. I'll just say that. Like, when you see him, he's clearly not healthy. So, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, well, maybe they're saying he's hurt just to protect him a little bit and give him a reason to sit him out and let him just relax. It's not that. He is not healthy at all. So, he is hurt. But when I hear stuff like it's been something I'm dealing with my whole career, right there my alarm bells start going off. Like, hang on. Like, is this a long-term thing that you've been dealing with? Is it something that we cannot fix? Because sometimes problems have a way of solving themselves if the guy's not healthy and can't keep playing. But listen, actually is more functional on the third pair. Benoit is a big guy, bangs around, but you know, he is limited with the puck. He does not move it up the ice well. He fights for it hard, but then once he gets it, it sort of stops there. But Lagesson
fights with it.
He fights with it, exactly. But Lagesson makes plays. Like, he can pass the puck a little bit. They basically played 5 defensemen in the last period, and Lagesson was one of them. Because you can't play Giordano this much. You just cannot. He will run out of gas. You can see him sometimes running out of gas in games. Like, he just can't play that many minutes. So somebody has to pick up 4th and 5th deep marker minutes until Liljegren gets back. So, yeah, like, it's a concern, but it's where they're at. What are they going to do? Lagesson's been not too bad, but they need Liljegren back. They need Giordano back down on the third pair, and then they give themselves a fighting chance.
With Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, the Leafs beat Detroit in Stockholm earlier this afternoon, 3-2. They were down 2-0 going into the third period. They stormed back in the third. William Nylander, 3 points. John Tavares with the winner. Bertuzzi was great. That line was great. And as you said earlier, they needed that, and they've needed it a lot, I think, recently, where, again, Matthews held without a point. That's 3 games in a row. Marner had gone 3 straight games without a point. He picked up an assist, I think, on the Nylander goal, the power play goal. But those guys, I mean, we're on the air for a lot of it, Johnny, but they've been kind of sleepy here for a few games. Like, what's it looking like up close and personal?
That's a great word to describe it. I mean, listen, they're getting Wallman and Seider, who, say what you want about them. Statistically, they're one of the best defensive pairings in the league until Wallman got hurt in this game. Like, they do a really good job. They're getting Larkin, who's a very good defensive defenseman. They get those kind of matchups now. Hayes, I can see you mentally saying, but they're supposed to win those matchups. Like, that's why you get paid the most in the league. Like, yeah, you get tough matchups, but you win them. That's why you are who you are. The first period, they look like a team that had been in Sweden for 5 days and had not played a game in 6. You know, pucks bouncing and nobody on the same page and pucks in the skate. It just was off. And they were off like the rest of the team. The one concern I have against Detroit, certainly today, is when Marner tries to circle back and regroup and sort of wind it up, you're really just letting the opposition get set with 5 guys. And as great as those players are, it's still hard to create through 5 guys. I mean, you know, there are other players out in the ice that are professionals that are trying to stop you. And so they were skating into checking all the time, and it just wasn't happening for them. The individual stuff, they weren't beating guys one-on-one, they weren't beating guys off the wall, and they weren't getting rush chances. And so when you put all that together, you don't get a lot of looks. I mean, I think halfway through the game, the Leafs had 12 shots or something, and none that were really threatening. Auston got 1 shot early that Line made a nice blocker save on. Other than that, there wasn't much going on. It was just one of those nights. They just whether it was matchup or legs or system, they just weren't around it. They just were not around the puck in the net in the offensive zone enough.
Johnny, for guys like that they kind of know what their bread and butter is, and it's worked so well for them throughout their careers, like, you think Sheldon Keefe has a little bit of a reluctancy to go to them and say, listen, things aren't going well for you right now. Can you try something different? Can you maybe try not doing the big loop back and trying to go through 5 guys? Can we try and just transition it really quickly and maybe catch other teams sleeping? Or you think it's one of those things where he just says, let them work through it, they'll figure it out, they don't really need to change anything?
No, I think Sheldon coaches everybody, including those guys. Now, Frankie, would he coach me the same way he coaches Mitch Marner? No, nor should he, right? Like, we understand that that's not how things work, and they shouldn't work that way. But I don't think he'd watch them play a whole game and say, just keep doing the same thing. You know, he would give them ideas, he would push and prod and yell. I mean, I've been between the benches when he gets on them to do something differently than what they're doing. So, no, I would not say that. Now, they might be more stubborn to apply it right away because, like, hang on, we know what we're doing. It's worked now for 5 years, and it will work again next game. But, no, Sheldon Keefe's is not hands-off with the top players. He works on them, too.
So, Johnny, you're over there obviously watching the Leafs today. You called the game yesterday where Ottawa, they blew a 4-0 lead, then they end up winning it in overtime. It was a wild game. And, you know, Detroit, now they head home. They only get 1 point. They might be lucky to only get 1 point, depending on how you look at it. But they're 8-6-3. Ottawa is 7-7. Ottawa's got 3 games in hand. It's still very early, clearly. But if you can look ahead 20 games from now, 40 games from now, who do you have more faith in making a playoff push, Detroit or Ottawa?
Oh, that's a good question, Hayes, because they're both a little flawed in their own ways. I guess I can't have faith in Ottawa when they're still so disjointed in their own end. As much as I like them and they're fun and they attack and they got tons of talent, they have 3 lines you can score and they got good defensemen who can score. and they might have a goalie in Korpisalo, like they just give up so much at 5-on-5. It's just too loose. I can't see a team like that unless they get great goaltending pushing for the playoffs. So I guess I would say Detroit because they seem more organized without the puck.
Johnny, isn't Ottawa's underlying numbers defensively, haven't they been like massively improved this year? And it's been like the goaltending that has kind of let them down at times?
No,
No?
not necessarily. No, I mean, I'm just proud of Ottawa. Like they're below 500 in shot share and scoring chance, and they're like 26 in expected goals at 5-on-5. No, I mean, yes, their save percentage is not great, but their shooting percentage is best in the league, Frankie, at 5-on-5. So they're getting bailed out by good scoring more than anything else. Their underlyings are actually, I think, a bit stronger last year than this year because they give up so many quality looks. So no, I don't see a team that is on the verge of getting better or is underperforming. In fact, they're probably slightly overperforming based on some of the metrics you look at it as far as what's sustainable. So defense, you guys know this. Defense should not be that hard. Yes, like some guys are better at it naturally. Some guys are more wired that way. And yes, some offensive players don't want to do that quite as much because it might take a little bit away from their offensive game. But not to the degree that you watch Ottawa and watch them scramble around without the puck in their own end. Like that's just coaching and accountability and having it matter. And both those things have to get better for them to become the team they think they want to be.
Yeah, I went back and was watching those that game, especially the second period, Johnny. Like those 4 goals, I didn't blame them on systematic. I blame them on dumb plays by the players. Like you look at the first goal, that's 6. What's his name? The left-handed defenseman. Chychrun shoots it into Tkachuk. He's the last guy back.
Foot.
He shoots it into Tkachuk. Now Tkachuk's on a 2-on-1 going the other way in the back of the net. Second goal is the seeing eye one that it goes over 8 people. Kind of like you're looking at it. The only thing I thought about is could DJ have called a timeout at 4-2 to try and settle things down to go okay guys, like hey, what are we doing here? Third goal, same thing. Like 19 goes chasing down in the corner, 62 falls down, and then that allows Gostisbehere to fire it back door, and Stützle doesn't take away the lane. There's 5 guys there, and Stützle allows the pass through the seam. Like, I was looking at it from a systematic standpoint. I'm like, those are just missed assignments. Like that's the guys are there. They're just missing the assignment. To me, it's more about top players bearing down, is it not?
I think it's a bit of everything, Noodles. And you're right. Like a goal went off Perron's stick. A goal went off Batterson's stick at his own net. There was a lot of crazy goals. But if you watch the whole game, the run of the game, Detroit had the puck in the offensive zone the entire time and kept getting it to the slot and kept getting chances. And you're like, someone has to be organized, know who's covering who, be tight on your checks, be communicating what's happening, and not let every possession result in a near scoring chance. Even if they don't go in, the ones that actually went in were, to your point, kind of crazy, kind of fluky breakdowns of an individual basis. But no, I could not watch that tape and say that's not a team-wide systemic. Well, and listen, maybe of course there's a system there, and the players are not applying it. It's not like DJ Smith is saying, go do whatever you want, I don't care. He's telling them what to do, they're not doing it. But that's all, like part of coaching is getting people to do what you tell them to do, right? Yeah. Like you got to get them to fall in line and do what they're supposed to do. He's not doing it, or they're not willing or able to. Either way, it's a problem, and it's been a problem. Noodles, you call them all the time. It's been a problem for years, and until it gets better, and you thought maybe with Sanderson and with Chychrun and a full year and all the rest and Korpisalo that might make it better. It hasn't. It hasn't made it better on its own. It's got to be like a mental recognition flip more so than we got better players now because they're playing the same loosey way. So, roundabout way, I just don't see them being consistent enough because they just give up too many chances because they don't defend well enough.
So, Johnny, you've been over there. You're in Stockholm. You've been there for a few days. 4 teams over there, 2 original 6, 2 Canadian teams, Minnesota. Like, how would you describe the fans? Like, how many maybe Toronto fans have flown over there, Ottawa fans, Detroit, Minnesota, and how many Swedish fans, European fans are there? And Leaf fans being represented. Can you paint us a scene on how big the Leafs are over there?
Yeah, so it's a real cross-section around the town, around the rinks. Like, there are fans from all over, from Czechia, from Germany, from England. Of the 100% makeup of the fans, I would say 50% are maybe Detroit, 40% are Leafs, and then you can split up the other 10 between Minnesota and Ottawa. The Leafs are a big deal. There's been a lot of Boris Salming acknowledgments this week. Matt Sundin has been around. When you think about the footprint of NHL teams in Sweden, I think Detroit is slightly more popular, I think largely because of the 2000 Detroit teams with all those Swedish players that were so good. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's Toronto. But if you look at individually, Mats is still maybe the most popular of all those kind of golden generation, the guys, the Lidströms, the Zetterbergs, the Forsbergs, Alfredsson, Sedins. Mats is still maybe the most popular of all of them, even though he didn't have as good of a career, certainly as Lidström or as Forsberg or whatever. They love Matt Sundin. I think he's dropping the puck for Sunday's game, so he'll be out in public. He was around. He read, I don't know if you guys saw it, he read the starting lineup before today's game, which is kind of a cool moment. Yeah. But Matt kind of single-handedly was a big reason, along with Borja, of the popularity of the Leafs specifically here in Sweden.
Johnny, how important do you think it is for, I would say, the coaching staff specifically to have a guy like Matt Sundin around? Like, we know they went to dinner Thursday night, I believe. He reads the starting lineup today. Like, that's a guy who's been in this city when this team, like, it's been mayhem, when they were going on playoff runs. Like, he understands kind of what the city is all about when that kind of stuff is happening. Not to say that these guys don't, but he's gone further than these guys have. Like, he understands it. Like, do you think they're kind of talking to him, picking his brain on how things were and how, like, his grasp is on Toronto and the playoffs?
No, I probably don't. Like, I mean, I just, that was 15 years ago. Like, half these players were barely alive. You know what I mean? Like, because it has to matter to the players. Like, Sheldon Keefe can appreciate that, and maybe there's something he can learn there. But, Brendan Shanahan could help him with that. Curtis Joseph could help him with that. I don't think it has to be Matt's. I think what Matt's does is that he offers a glimpse of sort of the dignity and the pride that he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs with. And he played there a long time, and the game now is more transactional. Players aren't there for the same amount of time. And I think what he shows them is like, this is what Leaf greatness looks like. And this is how well respected you become when you are great for a long time in Toronto. And it's really important to the people and the fans of the Leafs that you play well. And he was a picture of consistency and professionalism his entire career with the Leafs. And I think that would be the thing that might resonate with the players more than any other sort of message that he might deliver about what an opportunity it could be to win in Toronto. Everyone's heard that. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But just like when you meet Matt, Frankie, you guys all have met, have been around a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just sort of a presence he has of a guy that he carried himself kind of above the craziness of Toronto when he was the captain, and was great doing it. And that's why he's beloved. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame, and that's what you could be when you commit to the Leafs the way that he did.
Yeah, it was cool to see him again issuing out the opening lineup in the room today. Like you said, he might be dropping the puck on Sunday. That'll be a cool scene. 8 a.m. puck drop Eastern
right
time.
Early.
Yes.
7:30 pregame show here on 1050.
Pregame here on
Tatman.
Nice. I love it.
Wow,
I love it. 7:30. That'll be rocking.
Tatman will still be in his underpants.
Oh, yeah, he will. Yeah. Possibly an all-nighter. He'll just keep it rolling, man. Party all the way in.
I told him to wake up an hour before the pregame show because I just don't think he can get the engine running that quickly.
He'll be fine. He's a well-oiled machine. He'll be fine.
If you never shut it down, you never have to start it back up.
Hey, Johnny,
right.
You said no to me,
right.
I believe, 3 times in this conversation. Let's make it one more time. Were there any Mike Johnson Farjestad jerseys seen around Stockholm?
That is the easiest no of all time.
All right.
Uh-oh.
0 for 4.
My 12 games there were not quite enough.
Hey, alumni.
Appreciate the research.
Get the alumni jacket while you're over there.
Alumni coat, yeah.
Yeah, get the alumni jacket. You'll only be
I got
there
a lot
once.
of them. I got a closet full.
Attaboy. All right, enjoy the weekend over there. Safe travels home. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. TSN 1050's Leafs lineup, your chance to win Leaf tickets every week all season long. Every weekday, we've announced a current or former Maple Leaf player. Today, you'll have a chance to call in and name the whole Leaf lineup. One more player Matt Sundin is today's player of the day. There's a Swedish legend. Obviously, it was Boris Salming yesterday, as we know. So you got Salming, you got Sundin. Matt Sundin is your player of the day. The phone lines are open. 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. First one in to name all 5 Leafs. You're going to see Leafs Seattle, November 30th. Leafs Kraken, November 30th down at Scotiabank. All right, 416-870-1050. Giving away a pair of tickets there. Leafs Kraken.
Love it.
All right. The Raptors finally joined the in-season tournament tonight. They got the new court. It looks great. Like, I've seen pictures online. It looks really well done for the tourney. But really what matters is you got Boston rolling in, and it could be big trouble. You play the way you did the other night. They continue to start games the way they've been starting. Boston will blow their doors off tonight. So we'll set the scene for that. We'll head down to Scotiabank, catch up with Josh Lewenberg. We'll do that next. McLennan and Fridays, brought to you by Boston Pizza's new square footer pizzas. BP is reinventing the wheel with their 3 new square footer pizzas, an entire square foot of more cheese, crunch, and taste. These new pizzas are an absolute must-try at your local BP tonight. I think my girls are at Boston Pizza right now, actually. And I left my house. This is what I'm embarking on for the next month or more than that. They were baking. It was a PA day for both my kids.
Yeah.
And Christmas music was on, and they were baking Christmas cookies. And I guess then they had to go out and get advent calendars. I'm like, it's November 17th. Like, we've already got everything outside all set. I'm going to get home. I'll bet you the tree's up. I'll bet you by the time I walk in, the tree will be up.
It could be dangerous for you.
It happens quickly.
Wow. A lot of suites around. The elliptical has been moved to a dark portion of the basement, and it's basically non-functional.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Gone.
with all this runway, does the elliptical come back into play? Maybe.
No, I don't see. I gotta find a gym. Is what I need to commit to something. It's got to be a lifestyle. Because you know what? Also, my wife pulled out today was she got eggnog for the first time, and she was like, "Do you want to fire up some nog tonight?" Which means, some booze will be included in that, and then it really starts to get carried away.
What about like a F45, like Hayes 45 workout class?
I don't think I'm going that extreme, but I'll figure it out. I'll keep you posted because the O-Dog's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Right? It might have to be something I counter with. We'll see. We'll see if we can work that out.
When you're supposed to, fire up. Like, our tree's been up for a week.
You're kidding me.
Oh, yeah?
But it wasn't.
I didn't realize that.
It's not my fault. I fought it.
Right.
But I lost.
Yes, you lost.
But we were looking at the schedule, and it's like, okay, we got too many moving parts. So you couldn't do it this weekend. My son's in a hockey tournament. Next weekend, or traveling. Like, I've got games coming up. Like, there was no time we could do it as a family, but it was last weekend we did it, which is way too early.
That's
way too early.
Crazy early. You're basically in October, and you put it up. Yeah, that's too much, man. But you're right. That's a battle you're just not going to win. Like, it's a great. I'm seeing this online. Like, there's a great. It was either a TikTok or an Instagram thing. I can't remember her name in the show. I'll find it. I'll send it to you guys. But basically, it's like when you try to say you're not putting your tree up, and the response from your wife or your significant other is not rational. Like, it's going up. If it's been determined it's going up, then it's going up, and it's that easy. You don't have a choice. So
no, I didn't have it. I literally lost that argument, and I said, "Okay, give you an hour, and that's it."
Yep.
So we did.
So there you go. It's all set up, and it's all good. But I'll let you know in about an hour what I'm walking into, because I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe a little TikTok of it.
Maybe I will get the TikTok going at B Hayes on Air, Instagram and TikTok. It's such a random name for a handle that it was still available.
Yeah.
On TikTok, Instagram, TikTok, B Hayes on Air. Right. I'm really bringing the heat.
Attaboy.
I'm really bringing the heat. All right, Raptors in action tonight. Finally getting the in-season tournament started. Gary Trent was so excited yesterday. We asked Gary. He's like, well, you got to play anyway, so you might as well win. I'm like, that's a good point, Gary. Might as well win. But with Boston in town, will not be easy. Let's head down to Scotiabank now, catch up with our TSN Raptors reporter. Here's Josh Lewenberg. Josh, we're taking a peek on TSN 2 right now. The court, it looks phenomenal. Yeah. Like, how does it look up close and personal?
Better than I expected, to be honest. Like, I was pretty skeptical about, the in-season tournament in general, but certainly the courts. And I will say this, like, it's not even initially, what stood out about it, and I'm not sure that this is a ringing endorsement necessarily, but it certainly wasn't as bad as some of the other ones around the league that are really, really bright and kind of hard on the eyes. But, yeah, I mean, in person it does look better. And if nothing else, I mean, listen, the NBA needed to do something to differentiate these games from regular season games because of the way that the tournament is structured and formatted. And this is one of my biggest criticisms of it, actually, is it's spread out right now on Tuesdays and Fridays over the course of like a month and a half. The point is, as you mentioned, some teams have already played 3 games before the Raptors are playing 1. I mean, the Grizzlies are already eliminated before the Raptors are playing their first game. So, yeah, they needed to do something to differentiate it. And, I mean, love it or hate it, these courts definitely set these games apart.
Is it just the courts, Josh, or is there anything kind of interactive with the fans that is going to enhance the viewing experience with the stadium that kind of lets you know, like, hey, this is different than a regular season, this is the tournament, and we're just operating a little differently?
Well, we'll find out. I mean, there's nothing that I'm aware of other than the courts and the jerseys. I mean, listen, like, I think there's the bones of something interesting here. I mentioned already one issue that I have with it, and I think it should play out over the course of like 2 weeks where the games are played every day. It's easier to follow and to track. But here's the other issue that I have with it, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it as well, is I think the league needs to do a better job of connecting the player incentive and team incentive ultimately with something that the fans are going to be interested in. And I think that's sort of the point that you're making here as well, is what are the stakes for the fans? Because I can tell you this, the fans do not care if already rich professional athletes get slightly richer as a result of winning this thing. So I have a few ideas. One thing that I've heard a little bit is the winner gets an extra draft pick. And it's interesting, but it's certainly something that teams will care about and probably fans as well. But I'm not sure that players are going to be clamoring to get their team an extra draft pick that they could theoretically use to replace them. And I also think it might be a little bit too powerful. Ideally, you find the sweet spot between something that's powerful enough to be interested in and not too powerful to basically break the game. So here's my pitch. The winner of the in-season tournament, if you don't end up making the playoffs, you get an automatic playoff spot at the end of the season. If you win the tournament and you do end up making the playoffs, you get to choose your first-round opponent. And considering how much this league is built around drama and rivalry, think about all the drama and rivalry that will go into a team essentially choosing the team that they think that they can beat at the end of the season. Like, I think that would be kind of fun and something to play for and something that fans will root for.
Oh, I love that idea. I've always been a huge proponent of a playoff draft. I think it would be the coolest thing. Someone's going to do it at some point. You just got to have the stones to pull it off. And if it doesn't work, fine. It doesn't work, so be it. Next year, go back to the conventional way of doing it. But that, I think you got something cooking there, because one thing I will say is Adam Silver, this is his baby. Like, he needs this in-season tournament to work. He is praying Boston wins, Denver wins. Like, it's a disaster if it's a brutal team that wins this, right, Josh? Like, if Detroit wins, it's basically the players are saying, this is so stupid and we don't care.
It's so funny because I'm kind of rooting for the opposite, and maybe that's just like devil's advocate in me, but like I would love it if an Orlando or like Charlotte ended up winning this thing and hoisting the NBA Cup in Vegas in a few weeks. But I agree with you. I mean, like, the NBA is obviously very invested in this thing working, and like whether it does or it doesn't this year, it's obviously here to stay, at least for a little bit. Like, it's not going anywhere. I do think like there is tinkering to be done here. And I do think, like, we're talking about the NBA, and the NBA has always been open to change and to, like, adapting certain things, taking what works and throwing out what doesn't. I mean, I compare them to, like, Major League Baseball for so many years, like, up until probably pretty recently. They just kind of lay back on, like, well, we've been doing it this way forever, so that's a good reason to continue to do something. And we see now that they've started to make some changes with the pitch clock or whatever. Like, people are embracing it. Change sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes is good. And I trust that the NBA will not necessarily get rid of this thing if it doesn't work this year, but I trust that they'll find ways to tinker with it, and I do think it's going to need some tinkering either way. With
Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors reporter, Raps Celtics tonight. So what needs tinkering is the way the Raptors start games. And it's been an issue all season, but it's really flared up recently. Awful in the first quarter, not much better, if not worse, in the second quarter. Not much better in the third, and then they come alive in the fourth. The fourth quarter, they're one of the most productive teams in the league, but these starts have been awful. Obviously, they realize that. They need to change it, but how likely is it going to change against a team like Boston tonight?
Yeah, when you're missing OG Anunoby and you're going up against a Celtics team that at one point looked like they could be missing some guys as well, but Horford, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, all of those guys who were questionable are going to play, so you're up against a really tough Celtics team at full strength, a Celtics team that really handed it to them in Boston not even a week ago. So, I mean, if nothing else, that's your incentive right there. There are a lot of good reasons for the Raptors to be highly motivated tonight, and the tournament is actually pretty low on that list. There are other reasons, of course, where the Raptors need to get back on track tonight, and I agree with you. Like, I think the biggest issue right now is those starts. Like, you can get away with playing catch-up against the San Antonios and the Washingtons of the world. Clearly, you're not able to do it against Milwaukee even without Giannis, and it's certainly not going to be able to get away with it tonight. So, I mean, even asking Darko the other day, he couldn't quite get to the bottom of what it was or why they were getting off to these slow starts. We've seen it before from the Raptors, too, and that's the thing is, like, a couple of years ago, they did it a lot, but the thing is they found ways at the end of games to fight their way back and show that resilience. And I'll give them some credit for doing that already this year because we certainly didn't see that last year. And I thought that was probably the biggest difference between the team from 2 years ago and the team from last year is there was just no fight in the team last year. They would fall behind big early and just look dejected by halftime. So I do think, again, there's something here. This group has a chemistry and a certain togetherness that you need in order to come back from those big deficits. The trick here is finding out how to do without those big deficits to begin with.
Well, Josh, you talk about OG not playing, and we always talk about his defensive ability. And, you know, I think sometimes one of the things that gets overlooked is his ability to shoot the ball. How much do they miss OG's shooting ability, especially in a game like tonight where you know Boston is going to put up a ton of points? Like, how much will they miss OG on the offensive side of the ball as well as defensively?
Honestly, every game that he misses, his trade value is going up. And with every game that he misses, his probably case for Defensive Player of the Year is going up because it's really, really noticeable when he's not on the floor. I mean, you look at the statistics alone and, like, the numbers, his on-court numbers versus his off-court numbers for the Raptors are, like, drastically different right now. I'm not sure he gets enough credit for how valuable he is. We know he's an elite defender, and he's a really good offensive player, but I've been thinking about this a lot recently with these games that he's missing. What if theoretically you flip those things? What if you say he was an elite offensive player and a really good defender? You're probably talking about a superstar player in the NBA, right? Like, the best players in the NBA are usually, like, of that ilk. So it's interesting that for whatever reason, defense isn't valued as much as offense, especially in 2023, where, let's face it, there are a lot of guys in the NBA who can score. What's really rare are the OG Anunobys, the guy that can defend the best player on the opposing team, regardless of their position, every night and do it at the highest level. So, yeah, I mean, I think his value is pretty apparent to the Raptors right now. I agree. It's showing itself on both ends of the floor. If for no other reason, we know about his defense. Let's put his defense aside for a second. But the offense, like, this team, as we've talked about at length over the last couple of years, they don't have shooters. Like, it's OG, it's Gary Trent Jr., Grady Dick, depending on the day, I guess. But the margin for error is very small to the point where if one or two of those guys are in a shooting slump, or certainly if one or two of those guys are out of the lineup, you're in big, big trouble. And it puts a lot of pressure on the team's defense to be elite in order to make up for those offensive shortcomings. And we've seen that, right? Like, when the defense has been elite, they've been fine. But the second they have those quarters or those halves where they are, I don't know, like there's miscues and lapses and whatever, again, they're in big trouble.
Well, we'll see how the tournament starts tonight. Maybe that's what this whole season's about for the Raps, right? Chase an NBA Cup. Anything's possible beginning tonight.
Get the banner up there.
Get the banner. There'd be a banner, right, Josh? You got to put a banner up if you win the Cup.
I mean, the Raptors love banners, and speaking personally, I wouldn't turn down a trip to Las Vegas in December, so yeah. I'm into it.
Okay.
Sign me up.
All right, there you go. Do it for Lewenberg. I love it. Thank you, Josh. Enjoy it tonight.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors reporter. That's a good point. The reporters of the 4 teams that are going to Vegas, they're like, we'll go to Vegas.
Yeah.
We could do Vegas, I guess. That'll work.
There's your incentive. Find a way to get the boys to rally around you,
yes,
the reporter.
The reporter in Vegas.
Speaking of reporters, how did Carissa Thompson's...
I don't think she addressed it last night, but she did on Instagram, I think, today, Twitter. Did she say something?
Didn't she just report that Joe Burrow's playing next week?
Yeah,
I saw a meme that's like, just spoke to Joe Burrow. He's fine. It's like,
she'll never live that down, man. She'll never live that down.
Because that's something else.
Everything is like a botched report. It's Carissa Thompson. Right?
Just heard, Brady's playing for the Bengals next
Brady's
week.
coming back. So good.
Something else.
Yeah. Anything you can. There's so much material there.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, she didn't address it. I would guess that was probably Amazon that was like, you're not messing around with our broadcast here. We're not getting off track because you said something on a podcast.
Yeah.
But now I think she's trying to claim that it's not actually what she said or something. I don't know. Something
Fake
like
news.
Yeah,
Fake news.
it's not a salacious enough story that it's going to have legs much longer than 24 hours. Like that's the world we live in now. It's crazy for 24 hours, then you move on.
Yep.
And I think Carissa Thompson's probably well aware of that. But
So Horvat just sent one. She's reporting that Joe Burrow's finger is going to be amputated.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. Well, I guess, hey, listen, you can throw it down to the sideline. Anything's possible. Right? You never know what you're going to get.
I wonder if she just exaggerated the whole thing.
I guess her thing was that, I don't know. She wrote something on Instagram. She's trying to get out from under. She understands she's getting grilled from her counterparts. That's probably what she's really caring about, not what Joe. And again, the average person I don't think cares enough about the story. Quite frankly, it doesn't change the game, right? It's not the integrity of the game.
All
it's
the
a sideline
people in
report.
the field, right? It lacks credibility for the whole industry, like the sideline reporter.
And that's what she's
colleague
should be worried about. That her counterparts are like, you're jamming us up here, and I think she knows that.
Yeah.
Mail-in Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza's new Square Footer Pizzas. BP reinventing the wheel with our 3 new Square Footer pizzas. An entire square foot of more cheese, crunch, and taste. These new pizzas are an absolute must-try at your local BP tonight. Come back with our best bets. Look back on a Leaf win again today. Raptors in action tonight. Grey Cup weekend in the Hammer. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm going to take the Jets with the points. The Bills, look what they've done all year. The Bills have found a way to throw away games. I know the Jets are a mess. I know Zach Wilson's a mess, but that defense is so good. And
What's
the Bills.
The points, though? What's the
I'm
spread?
getting 7 points.
Whoa.
Take those, yeah.
I'm going to take the points against Buffalo.
For sure.
You sure? Like this Josh Allen, at some point, don't you think the light will go on for this guy?
I don't know, man. It's
He's
week 11.
mentally scarred. He is mentally scarred.
Now they're changing the OC. It's a divisional game, right? The Jets.
Yeah,
I can't trust Buffalo right now at that kind of number.
But the Jets do Jets things.
They do a lot of Jets things. You're right.
Yeah, that's true.
Browns Steelers. I know the defense is going to be big, but the total's 32.5. I'm going over. That number's so low. 17-16 covers this number.
Let me ask you something. Do you have any information on the weather?
I'm guessing it'll be cold, windy, but not crazy. It's November. Right?
All right.
It's in Cleveland. Okay. This is more about the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Watson's out. You got a rookie starting. Kenny Pickett hasn't been great. But I could see defensive points here. I could see a pick 6, a fumble 6 on both sides. I could see both defenses, special teams putting up 10 points, 13 points. I just got to get to 33. I'm on the over. And Lions big at home against Chicago. Lions, I think, are going to take off in the north. Although they understand Minnesota's kind of still chasing them. They had a good game last week. They were coming off a bye the week before. I think they roll at home. That's a big number, laying 7.5, but I'll take it. That parlay paying plus 550. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Same game parlays this NFL season now include passing touchdowns and receptions on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. It's been a great week. Leafs with a win today. Raptors in action tonight. Leafs back in action on Sunday. Grey Cup and the Hammer on Sunday.
Good weekend, man.
What a party it's going to be.
Yeah,
of course, you can hear it and watch it on TSN all week. And week 11 in the NFL, too. So we got a lot cooking this weekend. It's going to be a great one on Monday. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for all the help all week. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.